four boys had been best friends since kindergarten. Mike and Rich were twin brothers, but there was never any sibling rivalry. Mike was kind of the studious kind of person. Rich, more a person of action. You might find Mike reading a mystery or an historical novel, while Rich would probably be out trying a new jump for his skateboard. Despite the differences in their personalities, both boys supported the other in whatever thing that each one wanted to do. Bill, he was kind of an instigator, but he usually did it in such a manner that it might bring about a smile rather than a smirk. And Eddie was the deep thinker. The other three boys didn't always understand him, but they admired him. And each and every one would defend the other against any threat. On the night that it happened, the four boys were deep in the woods, around a campfire, their fronts curled toward the warmth and light of the flames, and their back curved away from the nighttime cold that was creeping in from the woods that surrounded them, along with the smell of the earth and the leaves. Well, are you going to tell that scary story that you said you'd tell us after we ate? It was Bill. He tried to wipe the sticky marshmallowness from his fingers and looked at Eddie. You know, that story that you said, if you listened to it, it would kill you. Rich chuckled. He pulled his knees up close to his chest just for the snugness of it. Bill looked at Rich. What are you laughing at? Come on, Bill. Don't be a dummy. Don't you know when somebody's putting you on? Ain't no story that can kill you just by listening to it. Mike raised his head from the deep study he was doing, looking at how his shoelaces looked so different in that light of the fire. What's that? Were you kidding? What, you're not going to tell a story? Eddie, I mean, were you just kidding us? No, said Eddie. I wasn't kidding you. But I never said that it would kill you. What I said was it would end you. And it will. Bull, said Rich. But then a stick snapped in the fire and he jumped. Mike laughed and said, come on, Rich, you're just as afraid as the rest of us to listen to this story. Go ahead, Eddie. Tell the story. Let's see if someone dies or ends or whatever. Eddie waited till the boys had settled down, and he knew that he had their attention. He put his elbows on his knees and his chin and his fist, stared into the fire, and started the story. There were four boys sitting around the fire deep in the woods. No one knew they were there. They were surrounded by tall old trees, and it was so dark you couldn't see anything between the trees. But every once in a while, from somewhere in that forest, you could hear the hoot of an owl. And just as he said that, "Hoo, hoo," Mike said, "Whoa, just like in the story. I mean, it's working, it's working." Eddie looked at Mike, a long, steady, knowing look. then glanced back into the fire and continued. There were 3 boys sitting around the fire. A cold wind blew in from the woods. And once again, just as he said that, you could hear the leaves rustling in the trees, and the boys could feel the cold air. Bill and Mike moved in closer to Eddie, and all 3 stared across the fire at some leaves scuttling across the empty space. Mike whispered, Something's wrong. I don't know what it is, but something's wrong." There were 2 boys sitting around the fire. Mike jumped up. Wait a minute, and his eyes got really wide, and he looked, but somehow deep inside of him he knew he wasn't going to see whatever it was he was looking for. And he said, "Where are the other guys? I mean, we were all going to come out tonight. How come we're in this darn forest just by ourselves? How come it's just you and me? We're all alone." Eddie looked up. "No, Mike, we're not alone. I am." And he was. And a great stillness came over the forest, and every creature in the forest froze in their steps from fear. And pretty soon the fire is going to go out because there's going to be no one to feed it. And it will fall in on itself and turn to ash, and in the morning, Mr. Morgan's going to come by and wonder who lit it, and he'll never know. Eddie curled his toes inside his running shoes and gave a secret smile. And again he heard the owl. "Hoo! Hoo!" Eddie answered him back. "Hoo! Hoo!" The owl hooted again. But Eddie didn't answer him, because Eddie wasn't there. And the owl turns its big round head this way and that, waiting for a response, but becoming discouraged, he spread his big, soft, powerful wings, flew into the woods, found a mouse, killed it, and ate it.